Each and every night, your mind departs from this world, and right here is where it goes. What exactly takes place in our consciousness when we go to sleep? The world around us vanishes into nothingness as soon as we close our eyes, which happens in a single instant. Everyone and everything, including the sounds, the sights, and even the weight of our own bodies, vanishes. Despite this, there is something that continues to exist within us, something that continues to exist even while the body appears to be sleeping. The mind begins to create landscapes, encounters, and entire events while we are sleeping, and these can frequently feel as real as the life we are living when we are awake. We come into contact with individuals we have never met before, travel to locations that do not exist, and experience feelings that are so powerful that they remain with us long after we have awoken. Given that sleep is supposed to be nothing more than a chemical reset for the body, it begs the question, why does the mind exert so much effort to invent entire worlds while we are sleeping? Explanations, stages of sleep, brain regeneration, electrical activity, and chemical reactions are all things that can be acquired through scientific research. However, none of these hypotheses provide a satisfactory response to the more profound problems that continue to trouble us. What is it about certain dreams that make them feel so familiar? How is it that we are able to experience emotions such as love, fear, or desire in worlds that are only present in our minds? And perhaps most disconcerting of all, why do so many people report the uncanny sense of floating outside their own bodies, viewing themselves from above, as if their awareness could detach and allow themselves to freely roam across regions that are unknown to them? Ever since the beginning of time, dreams have been a strange realm where the rules of the physical world appear to be powerless within. There is a bending of time, a dissolution of logic, and the realization of the impossible in dreams. What if, however, dreams are not merely random bits of the subconscious rather than the whole? What if each and every night our consciousness is actually journeying beyond reality and penetrating hidden dimensions, exploring different realities, or communicating with something that is beyond the comprehension of human beings? We are going to go deeply into this riddle together because gaining an understanding of what actually takes place during our sleep could very well be the key to unlocking one of the most profound mysteries of existence. And what you are about to learn could significantly alter the way you perceive the world for the rest of your life. You have arrived at Beyond Reality, a place where the realms of science, spirituality, and the unknown come together. It is highly recommended that you subscribe to our channel and accompany us on this adventure if you have an interest in delving into the mysteries of consciousness, dreams, and the hidden levels of life. There has always been an attempt made by science to describe what takes place while we dream. According to the findings of researchers, dreams are nothing more than the brain's way of channeling memories, feelings, and random parts of our everyday life. They characterize sleep as a biological necessity, a time for the body to repair, for the mind to organize information, and for our brains to flush out poisons. Sleep is something that is necessary for our bodies. During rapid eye movement, REM sleep, the brain is known to become extremely active, as we now know. As if we were awake, some regions of the brain that are responsible for vision and emotion, like as the visual cortex and the limbic system, become active. During this time, the segment of the brain known as the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and reasoning, becomes more silent. Perhaps this is the reason why dreams frequently have a strange, chaotic, and disjointed feeling connected to reality. Nevertheless, there is something about dreams that science has not yet been able to account for in its whole. In the event that dreams are nothing more than random images that are generated by a brain that is resting, then why do some of them feel so vivid and so real that we wake up gasping for air and haunted by feelings that continue to linger for days? Why is it that we occasionally find ourselves in places that we have never been before, having discussions with people that we have never met, and experiencing things that appear to be far beyond the confines of our imagination, which is even more unsettling? Is it possible that certain dreams are able to seep into reality? What makes it possible for people to have dreams about events, which can be either tragic or joyful, and then later have those events unfold exactly as they envisioned them days or even weeks before? Do we simply have a series of coincidental events, or is something far more peculiar taking place? Probability, which is the subconscious mind's ability to pick up on subtle signs or patterns that we don't consciously perceive, is supported by scientific evidence. However, many of us have the distinct impression that there is more to it than that. A riddle that has not been solved by science, and it's possible that they can't. Because if dreams were nothing more than chemical processes and random memories, then why do so many different cultures, spanning both time and space, depict dreams as portals? And as sacred places where the spirit can journey, where previously concealed information can be disclosed, and where time itself can start to break down. If those ancient customs were not merely myths, but rather glimpses of a more profound truth, what would that mean? Would it be possible that when we dream, we are not merely viewing a movie that our minds have made, but rather that we are genuinely transcending the boundaries of this physical reality? In the event that we dream, the question that arises is, what exactly are we touching? And is it possible that our consciousness was never intended to be restricted to the confines of this world altogether? Dreaming can be unpleasant for a number of reasons, one of which is the way in which certain visions transcend the boundaries of the present moment. People have frighteningly accurate conversations about dreams that take place days or even weeks after the dreamer's wake. There were accidents, unanticipated meetings, and details that were too specific to ignore. These aren't shards of imagination that have been thrown together. Their arrival is complete, and when they are confronted with the realities of life, they leave an imprint that cannot be forgotten. The conventional scientific community refers to it as a coincidence. It is possible for the subconscious to take in subtle patterns, process them while sleeping, and subsequently misinterpret them as prophecy. Nevertheless, when confronted with dreams that describe locations that the dreamer has never been to, names that they have never heard, or events that unfold exactly as seen, no explanation seems to give a satisfactory explanation. There are documented incidents, catastrophic events, unusual interactions, and even entire landscapes that were daydreamed about for a very long time before they actually occurred. It is not a matter of hazy impressions, but rather of intricate moments that occur with the same people, the same words, and the same result. This peculiar occurrence pushes the boundaries of what we know about time to its most extreme limits. The mind wandering off in a direction that is not the linear path that we take while we are awake. When the conscious mind is allowed to relax, it opens the door to the notion that the past, the present, and the future are not distinct points, but rather layers that are accessible, even if only for a short period of time. This notion has been hinted at by physics for a long time. There are interpretations that claim time does not flow in the same manner that we perceive it to flow. All of the moments, on the other hand, exist concurrently, just like the pages of a book that are ready to be read. It is possible that dreams are more than just psychological noise if this is the case. They might be windows providing momentary glances into experiences that have not yet been lived. Dreams, in addition to premonitions, corrupt the very concept of time. Over the course of a single night, one can experience what seems like hours, days, or even years of sleep. When one opens their eyes, entire lifetimes are experienced in vivid detail, only to disappear as soon as they do so. Love felt for persons who were never met, memories of faces that never existed, and anguish for losses that never occurred are all examples of such things. Because of the fragility of that space, time seems to stretch, memory seems to grow, and the seemingly impossible becomes ordinary. Nothing in our waking lives can adequately prepare us for it. Despite this, it occurs each and every night, repeated over and over again. Dreams do not comply with the guidelines that we follow in our daily lives, and when they make their way into the actual world, they cause us to doubt the boundaries of our dreams, or whether they even exist at all. When the mind no longer feels as though it is contained within the body, there are times when dreams take on a different form at that same instant. People claim to have experienced hovering above their own sleeping form and being able to observe themselves from a different location within the room. They are able to recall every detail, including the position of their limbs, the pattern on the blanket, and the precise arrangement of the items that are surrounding them. And later on, when they are awake, those details are still accurate. Due to the fact that these experiences violate an unsaid law, which states that awareness is connected to body and bone, they are inherently disruptive. The air feels different, colors become more distinct, there is no confusion, and there are no blurred edges. The only sensation that can be described as irrefutable is the impression of being completely awake outside of the body. Those who have experienced them speak of a clarity that is unlike any dream. This phenomena has been described in a great number of traditions from all over the world. They speak of the soul departing from the bodily form, traveling through other realms, and exploring regions that are not visible to the sight of a person who is awake. According to ancient scriptures, it is not a fantasy, but rather a skill that can be developed, refined, and controlled. Therefore, it is not a fantasy. Contemporary research has had a difficult time explaining it. Some people believe that it is nothing more than a vivid hallucination developed by a dreaming mind that is searching for significance. When confronted with examples that are too specific to ignore, some people accept that there is no definitive answer. Robert Monroe, a guy who reported multiple episodes of his awareness detaching from his body, is one of the research subjects that has received the most attention. On other occasions, he found himself in locations that he had never been to before, and he described the architecture, people, and events with a level of precision that was shocking. In the end, several of those descriptions were confirmed, including locales that he had never visited and individuals whom he had never met for the first time. The most fundamental assumption in neuroscience, which states that the mind is nothing more than the brain in action, is called into question by this. If consciousness is able to move beyond the confines of the body, view the universe from a distance, and even obtain information that would otherwise be impossible to know, then our grasp of reality is lacking in some way. These out-of-body experiences do not adhere to the norms that exist within dreams. As soon as you wake up, they do not disappear. They leave behind a burden, a residue of unwavering conviction that what was observed was genuine. Furthermore, once they have been experienced, they bring about a fundamental alteration, bringing about the peaceful knowledge that the body may be home, but it is not the limit. There is a remarkable process that takes place deep within the brain while one is sleeping. While the body is at rest, the mind is in a state that contradicts the logic of waking consciousness. In the midst of these shifts, the pineal gland secretes minute quantities of a potent substance known as dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. DMT, which is widely recognized as one of the most powerful psychedelic compounds found in nature, stimulates the experience of vivid images, changed perceptions of time, and experiences that appear to be impossible to be real. It is treasured as a bridge between the physical world and something that is far greater, something that is just beyond the perception of humans, and it can be found in plants that are utilized for sacred rites. This compound flows spontaneously, uninvited, and unobserved without being noticed within the dream experience. There is a notion that sleep itself is not merely a biological process, but rather a built-in portal, one that opens every night when consciousness floats free from its anchor. This is a possibility that is not widely discussed. DMT-induced experiences are described by individuals who have experienced them. These individuals describe landscapes that are beyond their imagination, gigantic structures, impossible geometries, and intelligences that are observing from the shadows. A significant number of people return to change, having difficulty articulating the assurance they felt that they were not alone. Assuming that such realms do exist and that the mind is able to access them in a natural way when sleeping, it becomes more difficult to consider dreams to be nothing more than fragments of memory. It is possible that these are not the brain's artificial creations, but rather glimpses into something that is genuine, something that is waiting on the other side of perception. The same patterns are revealed by experiments that are conducted on altered states of consciousness. Subjects who are under the influence of DMT report having images that are hauntingly similar to those of deep dreams or out-of-body experiences. They describe leaving their bodies, traveling through bright tunnels, and meeting beings who appear awake, curious, and even waiting. Because of the regularity, this is considerably more worrisome than it already was. They return from these changed states recounting the same encounters, the same settings, and the same overwhelming feeling that they have passed a threshold that few dare to identify. These people come from different civilizations and are separated by oceans and time. It gives the impression that dreams, as well as the underlying chemistry that lies beneath them, may have a role that we have only just begun to comprehend. This is not a malfunction or a consequence. Rather, it is a portal through which we are able to connect with something that exists beyond this waking life. There is a door that opens silently and unseen every time our eyes close, regardless of whether or not we recall having crossed it. When we wake up, the majority of our dreams are gone. Before our eyes even open, faces become hazy, words disappear, and entire worlds disintegrate. What appeared to be indisputable in the shadows gradually disintegrates into bits, partly remembered and half imagined, until even the feelings with which they were associated slip through our fingers. The portion of the brain that is responsible for remembering is called the hippocampus, according to scientific research. When you are sleeping, it functions differently, with less of an emphasis on retaining moments and more of an emphasis on allowing them to slip away. This is a straightforward explanation that is provided. Despite the fact that dreams are not intended to remain with us, the response leaves something behind, namely an unsettling feeling that forgetting is not merely an accident. A number of academics have hypothesized that the mind is, in fact, discarding information rather than simply failing to retain it, exclusive, deliberate, and guarded in nature. The question that has to be asked is not why we forget, but rather why we are not permitted to remember, if dreams are, in fact, windows into something more significant, into futures that have not yet been lived, and into realms that are beyond this one. Nevertheless, there are times when a dream refuses to go away by itself. Certain things remain ingrained in one's memory for years, even decades, existing on the periphery of this waking life. There are some dreams that carry a weight that is too big to be ignored, encounters that leave us feeling unfinished, and messages that appear to be intended solely for us. How is it that some pieces have managed to survive while the others have been lost? Certain individuals are of the opinion that these recurring dreams are endowed with significance, which may originate from the depths of the subconscious or from a source that is located far beyond it. Messages that are left behind by something that we are unable to define but can identify instantly. When it comes to bringing long-lost dreams back into the light, some people resort to ancient rituals, hypnosis, or deep meditation. These methods frequently reveal visions that are so peculiar that they cannot be described. Memories that feel like they were taken from another person, encounters with unknown beings, and glimpses of other lives. Moreover, there is the uncanny certainty of having lived a moment previously without being aware of how or when it occurred. This is known as déjà vu. The street was never walked, and the voice was never heard, but it was nonetheless familiar. There are many who speculate that these fragments of dreams are resurfacing, pieces of a memory that the mind attempted to conceal but was unsuccessful in doing so. Unspoken and disquieting is the final question that it leaves unanswered. In the event that the mind is able to delete whatever it chooses, who or what is responsible for determining what we are permitted to remember? Moreover, what would occur if we were to remember anything at all? Dreams are places where time seems to stand still. Just a few minutes of sleep can turn into hours, days, or even years if you let it go. Lifetimes are unfolded like this. Relationships are forged, worlds are discovered, and feelings are carried to such a profound degree that they remain when one wakes up. Despite this, only a few minutes have gone by the time the eyes open wide. There is nothing in waking life that can adequately prepare the mind for a distortion of that kind. It violates every rule that we have confidence in about the passage of time. There is no concern for calendars, clocks, or the consistent rhythm of night and day in that particular location. Studies on rapid eye movement, REM, sleep, shed light on the distinct ways in which the brain functions during it. Seconds and hours are no longer the units of measurement for time. In its place, it flexes and contorts, expanding or contracting, according to a phenomenon that is not at all consistent with the laws of physics. Lucid dreamers who have been trained to remain conscious while participating in a dream have attempted to count and track time as accurately as they can. It is impossible to predict the outcomes. Time can move too quickly at times, too slowly at other times, and sometimes it just stops moving altogether. There are troubling questions regarding the nature of reality itself that are raised by this delicate area where time continues to unravel. What does it say about the environment that we find ourselves in when we wake up each day if the mind is capable of experiencing years in a matter of minutes? Does time really exist as a constant, or is it really an additional layer of perception that we mistake for the truth because it causes us to feel as though we are standing on something solid? Physicists have a tendency to claim that time, in the sense that we perceive it, might be an illusion. That each and every instant, whether it be the past, the present, or the future, exists simultaneously, written down and waiting. If this is the case, then dreams may consist of more than just a means of escape or reflection. It is possible that they function as a rare instance in which consciousness ventures beyond the illusion, allowing our awake minds to touch shards of time that they were never intended to witness. There is an infinite number of accounts of individuals waking up from dreams with memories that do not belong to them, of lives lived, languages spoken, and sadness born from losses that did not occur in this location during their lifetime. The mind is able to differentiate between fantasy and recollection, and the things that remain in our memories from those dreams do not feel like they were imagined. Rather, they seem like they are genuine. It is possible that this is the case because at those times it is. We are able to catch a glimpse of something that our waking mind is unable to contain when we are dreaming because time passes through our hands, something that is both large and eternal. A reminder that the world we trust might simply be a single version of reality, one that is constrained by laws that disappear the moment we close our eyes because they are no longer relevant. Certain dreams have a sense of coherence that cannot be ignored. They are too structured, too detailed, and too alive. Faces that carry histories that are unknown to us but somehow familiar. Streets that go beyond the imagination. Cities that function with their own rules. And cities that function with their own rules. As a result of waking up from these nightmares, a persistent aching is frequently left behind, as if something actual was unfinished business. Within the framework of the multiverse theory, it is hypothesized that our reality is not the only one. Rather, what we perceive to be life is but one among an endless number of possibilities, with every universe having its own unique set of occurrences, decisions, and results. In scientific discourse, it is regarded as a mathematical phenomenon. According to philosophy, it is a mirror of something that is far older, namely the concept that existence is multifaceted, endless, and significantly more complicated than we are able to comprehend. If it is true that every conceivable reality exists, then what happens when consciousness liberates itself from its typical anchoring mechanism while it is sleeping? What would happen if, rather than constructing worlds through the use of memory and imagination, the mind simply wanders off into alternate realities that coexist with our own? In this way, the peculiar consistency that is observed in dreams reported by individuals who have never met, never spoken to one another, and never shared a culture could be explained. Everything remained the same vistas, the same architecture, and the same feeling of being watched by something enormous and foreign. Additionally, it would explain why certain dreams do not act in any way that is typical of dreams. There are innumerable examples of people waking up with knowledge that they have never learned, fragments of languages that they do not speak, recollections of abilities that they have never studied, and complete emotional histories that they have carried from a life that does not belong to them. It is during those times when it seems less like an invention and more like a retrieval, as if consciousness ventured too far, passed into a form of existence that it was never supposed to witness, and brought something back with it. There are some areas where the laws that we adhere to while we are awake, such as rules of time, space, and identity, do not apply. However, the experiences have a sense of being whole, total, and unquestionably real. It's possible that our dreams aren't even a representation of what's going on inside of us. It is possible that they are glimpses of what lies just beyond the invisible boundary that we refer to as reality. It is not possible to notice the layers that are built one on top of the other until the mind is liberated enough to see them. That being said, there is always a possibility that sleep will take us under. This allows us to pass. We begin to feel that our waking existence is becoming more fragile the more we attempt to pluck at the threads of our dreams. We put our faith in this world because it is consistent and it adheres to the laws. We are kept firmly planted on the ground by gravity, time continues to pass, and memory maintains a clear distinction between what was real and what was not. However, the fractures in that certainty are revealed when one sleeps. The fact that consciousness is not limited to this body or even to this particular form of reality is brought to our attention by dreams. It has the ability to move, see, and remember things that we were never made aware of. As it makes its way back, it brings with it evidence of locations that we are unable to understand. It is no longer an issue of whether dreams are significant. Rather, it is a question of whether being awake is the entirety of the story. Possibly what we refer to as reality is nothing more than the state that our thoughts tend to return to the most. Familiar, easy to predict, and secure. Nevertheless, if dreams are the portals through which we can access everything else, other times, other lives, and other versions of ourselves, then sleep is not merely a period of rest. Rather, it is a path, a journey through a terrain that is too far-reaching to be seen fully at once. Or perhaps that is the reason why we forget. It is not because the dreams have no significance. Rather, it is because the burden of remembering everything would be too much to bear. Because if we were to carry every piece of every planet that we have touched, the borders would disintegrate, and this version of reality, which appears to be so stable, may disintegrate. Nevertheless, there are nights when something breaks through. A dream that does not fade away, a feeling that persists and it is impossible to explain. When you get a moment of déjà vu that is so intense that it causes you to lose your breath. Moreover, when we are in similar situations, it is difficult to escape the feeling that a portion of us recalls. A portion of it is aware. Even while we are asleep, we are travelers. Travelers who travel through time and memory, as well as through worlds that are situated just beyond their reach. In addition, what is beyond that thin curtain is not a work of fiction. Rather, it is something that exists in the real world. There is something enormous. The question that really matters is not whether or not these locations exist. Rather, it is whether or not we are prepared to visit them. We appreciate you accompanying us on this adventure beyond the realm of reality. Subscribe to our newsletter, maintain your sense of wonder, and always keep in mind that when the world is quiet at night, your thoughts may be traveling further than you could have ever dreamed. Above and beyond the boundaries of time and space, beyond everything you believe to be true.